Good morning, everyone. Delighted to welcome you to today's webinar hosted by FlowForma in partnership with McBain's. Really excited for today as we'll be covering a highly relevant topic, strategic digitalisation, future-proofing compliance with evolving Building Safety Act legislation. Let's go into some more detail about your host for today. So FlowForma is a world leader of enterprise-class, no-code digital process automation tools that empowers workforces to rapidly digitalize a wide range of activities. Its digital tool, Build Shield, is designed for gathering, storing, and maintaining the entire life cycle of building information to support compliance with the Building Safety Act 2022, ISO, and construction design management, plus much more. McBain's is one of the leading property and consultants in the UK. McBain's are interdisciplinary property and construction consultants offering everything from architecture, project management, engineering services, cost management, civil and construction service, and much more. Without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our panel for today. From FlowForma, we have the Head of Solutions, Shay O'Connor. Shay has over 25 years of experience in the technology sector. He's an advocate for the transformative impact of digitalization and is passionate about helping firms achieve their compliance goals through digitalization. Dara Allen is an experienced digital product consultant at FlowForma. He develops creative, intuitive, and robust digital solutions to solve the complex challenges of compliance. And we are delighted to welcome our guest speaker for today, Jake Denny. So Jake is the Project Director of Health and Safety and CDM Service at McBain's. He's a prominent leader in health and safety. He's passionate about health and safety and construction design management, and is an advocate for thinking innovatively about health and safety compliance can be delivered. How are you all doing today?
All good, thanks, Patrick.
Very good, thank you, Patrick.
All good, thank you.
Very good. Just before we kick off with the topics for today, just wanted to get some interactivity together with everyone here. I'm just going to run a quick poll and get people's feedback. What we're asking is, where are you in your compliance digitalization journey? Are you currently researching the best approach to digitalization? Do you have some compliance processes digitized? Or is compliance fully digitalized in your organization? It's going to share the results. Very interesting. So it looks like 53% have digitized some processes. The majority, another 42% are currently researching the best approach, while only 4% are fully digitized. Really interesting results. Do you have any thoughts on that, Shay and Jake?
Not a shock from my end of things, to be honest. I mean, a lot of organizations do have some digitization. 4% fully digitized is impressive, to be honest. We don't come across many organizations who would definitely say that they have fully digitized all their compliance, and that's impressive. But to be honest, the rest, I mean, whatever, 96%, based upon that 68% vote, is that's not a shock to me. Jake, what do you think?
No, it's. I think that there is still some mistrust about digitisation, even though we've had digitisation for a good while now, especially in the health and safety industry. The digitisation of the health and safety industry is on an upward curve, but it's, again, as you said, Shay, it's not a surprise that everyone at the moment is still looking to find that digitisation solution.
That's great. Thanks for your feedback, guys. And just going to introduce our first topic, and I'll let you guys take it from here. So why digitalize your compliance processes?
Yeah, I mean, just based upon the feedback is there. like a lot of organizations, as Jake was saying, they're wary or hesitant always about what's the best thing to do when digitizing. I'm sure you've come across it lots of times, Jake. We certainly have. Um, and it's funny, it's one thing I don't like having to convince people of doing unless they're comfortable. To the same extent, you know that it's the right thing to do. It's just it has to be comfortable with everybody. What? How do you feel, Jake?
Agreed. I think that digitization is something that, as I said, is something some people are wary of, and I think you need to look at the generation, if you like. The people that are leading companies at the moment are from a generation where digitization was something that was introduced. Certainly for me in my early 20s, and
Yeah,
but for the generation of people there, digitization is something that's normal, and it's that process, isn't it? The people that want to use digitization tend to be in mid-management
yeah,
roles. There are an increasing number of people in more senior roles and at board level that have a digitization upbringing, if you like, but there is
yeah,
still that fear, if you like, or worry that this is different and this is new. So there is a steep learning curve for everyone.
yeah. And it's funny you say that. And we only had an analysis there recently of the organizations who were expressing interest in digitizing for their compliance and so on in the construction industry, and the majority, I I'm going to say it was around 60, but I think it was 57% were mid-tier management level who were trying to convince the senior people that this is the way they should do things. And that is an effort in itself. For, as you say, it's that transition from those who have digitization as per normal and go, it's obviously going to make things better and easier, where you have to convince people who aren't used to that, and they just see it all as computer systems. It's just it's all
Yeah,
IT, where
yeah,
not all IT
and
systems are
cost as well.
equal. Well, and usually we find a lot of where they've had a bad experience with cost of something from 5, 6, 7, whatever years ago, and as a result, are wary.
Yeah, I think the thing, though, Shane, you're making the point quite well, is that digitization is happening and it's going to happen, and we there are so many advantages now where the systems are more robust, they're much better, they're much more agile, they're more fluid, they give you better data now. Now's the time to really look at digitizing, especially from the health and safety industry, because it can the data and the information that's becomes available to you really helps with your compliance, and it demonstrates, especially now the introduction of the BSA, there is a real push by the HSE for people to evidence compliance, and
Yeah,
digitization helps you do that.
yeah, yeah. And what I love about the fact that people don't see the extra advantages, the likes of auditing and so on, that goes on in the background that
Yeah,
you don't even have to think about. You don't have to write down
yeah,
that you did this then. It tracks it for you. So
yeah,
there's a lot of extra advantages to digitizing than just filling out the forms. It does things for you in the background, like it puts the documents in the right place, puts it in the right naming format. Things don't get lost anymore. There's all those small things where it
yeah,
actually will take away a whole heap of admin that isn't enhancing your job. So take
no,
all those menial stuff, those things away. There's a massive
yeah, and
advantage to that.
oh, absolutely. And the additional advantage for the board is for them to see that once you start taking all those little pieces away from the people that do that normally, so when you're doing your job, you're entering this information, suddenly you're freeing up huge amounts of resource. And you're freeing people up to do their job, what they love doing, as opposed to the admin side of stuff, which no one really enjoys.
No.
And it's the digitization takes a lot of that pain out of that process, as you said, Shay.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I mean, we have a few bullet points up there, and they're all very relevant. But I always end up thinking of the characters who are trying to compile the end of the month or status reports, etc., and they literally having to cram it together, and it's taken away from their job, and they don't want to do it because they've done their work and all they're doing is reporting on their work. That should be automatic. People should be able to see that, and it can be, but you have to get to that point. I mean, you have to pursue that and put in a bit of effort to get to that point, but you can.
Yeah, yeah, and within the health and safety industry, with the introduction of the BSA and the golden thread and everything else that's going on, there is a huge opportunity here. And speaking from the health and safety industry, for us to embrace digitization much more than we do currently. And the digitization will help us with auditing on site. You can connect the systems up so the information and data becomes available almost instantly to contractors and clients when you're doing stuff on site. Equally, at strategic levels, during design team meetings, information can be entered into a digital process which can be shared instantly. And it's recorded instantly, and there are so many advantages to the digitization process that equally helps compliance with health and safety legislation in general, the CDM regulations. It helps with the Building Safety Act, the building regulations, and everything else that goes with that. There are, a system that gives you compliance with CDM pretty much gives you a compliance with Building Safety Act to a degree, and the building regulations and the golden thread especially, which is why we're here. And so I think that it's time for the health and safety industry to take that brave big step and go, do you know what, this is definitely what we need to do, because there aren't enough people to do the job, and digitization will help spread that.
It was funny when I saw this topic. My big thing was, why wouldn't you digitize? Because there's usually a human reason why you wouldn't. The reality is you should. Now, this is something that I think a lot of people head scratch, because there's been a lot of different, well, not saying a lot of different, but there's been a lot of noise about it. It's an incredibly important piece of legislation, but it's people's understanding of it. What should I do? What actually is the golden thread? I think you're best placed, Jake, to kick this one off.
Well, this is the thing. I think it's a really good point, Shay, because within the industry itself, the golden thread was introduced back in 22 under the Building Safety Act, and there's been a huge amount of discussion about what the golden thread is and what it does, and who's it serving and what's the purpose behind it. And it ties digitization in very well, because it says it has to be digitally stored.
Yep.
So therefore, the golden thread information, we're pushing that digitization process. But the golden thread information, to understand what the golden thread information is, you have to start at the end, and that's with the landlord and the people that are responsible for the building and the information at the end. What do they need to do? What's the information they need to be compliant with the new legislation?
Yeah.
And that's your start point. And from there, you can then go back to the very start, as the client at REBA 0, REBA 1, and go, okay, my outcome is compliance with Building Safety Act once I have this building. Okay. And to comply with that, I have to have this golden thread of information. So, project team, you will deliver this for me through the golden thread process. And this is what I need for it. And this is what I need from it. I need to be able to have information available to me that's digital, that is accurate, can be trusted, that is a single source of truth, if you like, and provides an accountability for the landlord themselves and their FM team. And so the golden thread is a means of ensuring that there is a collection of key health and safety information about the building, both strategically and operationally, so that it's collected through the project process. And at the end of the project, the client has their golden thread, their health and safety file, and they can then go into that digitally, and it's been collected through the whole process. And I think that for me is a good understanding of what the golden thread is.
It's funny you say it there. The that the landlord has their health and safety file. So that's the biggest thing for me, is the accessibility of the information. Because even though it's digitized, what we've noticed is that people say, "Oh yeah, I do it through email, and I have a document here, and I do," but it's not organized. So you can't, you don't end up with the ability to hand over, inverted commas, your health and safety file to the landlord, because it's all disjointed. It's in different places. It's not consistent, and everybody, they think, oh, that'll be fine, it'll be fine, until the day it's not fine, and then you have to go and
Yeah.
scrape. I mean, and we've seen, I don't know if I've seen a few organizations already have been hit with the fines and so on recently. But the reality is, it's not that they're doing everything completely manual. It's just they don't have the correct processes in place that they can actually provide the
Yeah.
evidence that they have done everything correctly. The audit
Yeah.
isn't there. It's not a it's it's not a clearly visible block of work. It's just they get fined as a result. And it's a
Yeah.
strange thing, because it, for me it's strange, because I think it's quite clear what needs to be done. Like, because as you say, it's a digital record of your health and safety actions, and this is one thing that you have super expertise on, is what are those health and safety actions. Like, you know, when you go to a site, when you go to a project, you're going to be saying, this is what you need to do, having viewed what you need to do here, because it's not the exact same every time, but this is what you need to do here. And then that all has to be, if you can digitize, have that digitized, and have all the information centrally stored and retrievable, I presume that's the utopia, that's the
Yeah.
magic wand. Yeah.
Well, absolutely it is, Shay. And, you know, if we flip this just a little and say, okay, well, look, clients, landlords, you are required under law, health and safety laws, CDM regulations, and, you know, to provide information to your project team on your building, or whomever is going to need that information when you're working on it. And how many times do you, but certainly from my perspective as a principal designer, ask the information, where is your health and safety information? Well, I don't really have very much. Okay, well, I've got some drawings here and I've got a bit of information there. And then the clients spend a lot of money spending money on surveys, on information, gathering information about the building they've owned for 20 years. And that information, and that's a cost. So digitizing that information through the project, on every project, means that when you get to that point to do some repairs on a building, and someone says to you, have you got information on the asbestos or the services, or the cleaning maintenance strategy, or whatever that is, you go, yes, it's just here. There you go. So you've saved yourself the cost of having to go and find that information, or worse still, offloading that cost, if you like, into the contractor, making it their responsibility to find the information, when actually that responsibility always remains with you as the client. You might say, well, I've given it to my contractor to do, but ultimately you have that responsibility, and you then have to make sure they've got the right information and they're using that information correctly. And I think that that's this golden thread, and it's, you know, using the expertise that you guys have, FlowForma, to create a digital platform that provides that information and is robust, is accurate, and, you know, is accessed and gives an accountability. Well, why would you not do that? Why would you not invest in that as a client?
Yeah, I see. I think I always come back. People are afraid, I think, to dive in the water. You know, they don't want to even put their toe in. They go, we'll be fine. Just keep going, get it done. And they can absolutely safeguard the future, safeguard all of the queries, all of the audits, by having a standardized approach through digitization. Now, just on that. So the journey to compliance digitization. I mean, again, here's something that any of the organizations that certainly come to us, and I'm sure, and go to you, they go, okay, so what do I do? Like, what am I meant to do? And for us, there's a buy-in that has to be present from the organization before anything else. So that sort of approach that we're all in this, we're going to do this properly. And we want to do it properly because there's a very good reason for doing this properly. So if we're going to do this, we're all buy in, we can get this done, and let's go. Like, that mentality, first of all, has to be there.
Definitely. The parties involved in digitization need to be brought into that process for that journey. And equally, I think that the one thing I've learned is that this journey starts with a particular expectation, if you like. This is, if we do this, this is the outcome. This is what we're going to get. When you have to be prepared to be sort of agile about it, because as you make this digital journey, you say, oh, do you know what, we could do that, or oh, it could do this as well, and someone else might go, well, if we did it this way, then we might. And you have to have that preparation. You can make the preparations, you can do some groundwork, speak to, talking to you guys, finding someone you can trust is really important on your digital journey as an organization, and that's the real key thing, I think, to the journey to compliance, is having a partnership with someone like yourselves that says, okay, look, we're going to help you with this. We have expertise in this process. We're going to give you benefit of that experience, and here's your need. So how do we make these both work together? Yeah. And having that trust to say, well, this is what we want. Yes, if we do it this way, then this is how it's going to look. And trusting that, that experience from the digital partner is going to give you that confidence to say, yeah, rather than saying, well, no, I need it to look like this. I need it to do this, and I need it to do that. Not listening necessarily to say, well, it will still achieve that, but this will make this a much easier process if we do this. And that openness in terms of that, having that collaborative approach to the whole process, is an important thing before you embark upon your journey to embrace. First of all, that we have an ideal, we have what we want, and we know we're going to work towards it, but the journey is full of twists and turns, and we're ready.
And it's funny, it's the what ifs and escalations and so on. Those, I mean, everybody, if each process and each activity that we did on site went perfectly clean, it would be a very simple scenario. You probably wouldn't have to go off manual paper, because if everything worked perfectly well, it would be quite simple. But as we know, it doesn't. And the what if scenarios creep in all the time. The escalations creep in. This is after happening. What are we going to do? The cool thing about having, say, your own digital environment is, I'd say, let's put that experience into it, so that when that happens, and when that happens next time, it knows where to go. And that's all this, the learning of the engine in the background. So this platform, for want of a better phrase, evolves as experiences occur. And what you actually end up with at the end is your environment of experience in a repeatable format. And so when we talk to managers, supervisors, etc., they are all so busy, which is totally understandable, that they don't have the time to then focus on getting their experience captured. Where if they spend the time just getting that experience captured, then they get less busy, because then it's usable and reusable. And we call it experience in a box. And that's what happens. Then when the new people come on site and so on, they go, oh, this is after happening here. Well, there it is on the form. If that happens, and then it brings you in another direction. Okay, now I know what to do, where it goes, all that sort of thing. So that sort of knowledge is really, really important. This is pretty much, well, it's similar, but this will be more down in my alley. How do you start? So again, we're saying about the internal buy-in, but and Jake, you would, I'm sure, would agree with this. It has to be top down. Like it has to be the management have to be behind this. Otherwise, you're not going to get the support. We would always advocate the fact that don't be afraid if you arrive and you think, oh, it's going to be a big piece of work. And we always compare it to, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? You get those few processes going that digitize that actually then free up that little bit of space. So you get more done and more done. And you were saying this earlier on, Jake, this is happening anyway. So in 5 years' time, everyone's going to be digitized. I mean, they're going to be. But the people who are certainly on the track, but the people who started now or 2 years ago, now they're well ahead. So they are doing everything with fewer resources to a consistent manner. For those who delay, you actually you lose time. I think you do anyway.
Yes, definitely. I think that it's something that we need to start collaboratively, so that we are looking at achieving goals collectively.
Yep.
And from a health and safety perspective, BSA perspective as well, starting with digitization. Well, it's the HSE is basically saying you've got to digitize, and so for me, starting from a health and safety perspective, my start with digitization is, what do I need to achieve? What are my outcomes? What is legislation demanding of me as a health and safety professional, as a PD,
Yep.
under the regulations? And this digitization gives a huge opportunity for us to provide a system or a process that gives us compliance, not just as PDs, but as a project as a whole. And starting from, this is what I need in terms of legislative compliance, is a good point, because it's a clear goal, isn't it? And then we can work closely with digitizing that process.
But like you guys, so McBain, if I was getting a building constructed, I'd get a professional architect to draw up the designs. If I'm looking to make sure I'm compliant and do the best, I get onto the likes of yourselves and McBain's and go, you know what you're doing here. What I need to be guaranteed I'm doing the right thing. And then you also have the scenario of using that expertise to digitize, and you digitize the process so it's repeatable. And it can be, instead of it being a new job every time, you're always just topping up all the time. You're just keeping that nicely spinning along, because things change, different environments, etc., and you still need to get some advice. But again, if I was getting an extension put onto that original building, I would go back to the architect. I wouldn't say, it looks great, I'll just throw something on there. You're going to go to professionals. You need professional help. And in my opinion, and it is the best thing to do. If you're asked for a utopia scenario, you would say, I get an expert in to tell me what to do to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I'd have all of that digitized and templated. I'd make sure I prove that out first. I'd go in and say, right, take a look at that for me now. Let's digitize a couple of things with your knowledge and see how that goes. Get feedback. Always the right thing to do. The biggest thing for us and the way we always operate is we scale. So because you get buy-in from the people who are going to use the environment and the expertise and this way of doing work, you get buy-in when you include them. You get feedback. You go, okay, how do you like that? Oh, you're missing this, you're missing that. Okay, we'll put that in. That collaboration to get to a working environment that is safer, has got full compliance. You can stand over it. You get auditor walks in, you get full thumbs up. I mean, that's the way you want to have it, isn't it?
It is. And just very finally on that how do you start, is why should you start with digitization? And that's because basically the golden thread requires it.
Yeah, it does require it. So why don't you do it right? That'll be,
absolutely,
if you're going to do it right.
Like if
you're going to get your car maintained, send it to a garage. don't do it yourself. If you're going to do it, you want to have your
Yeah,
warranty. So get the professionals in to
absolutely.
tell you you're doing it
Yeah,
right, and then do it, then digitize it
definitely.
correctly. Yeah. Thanks for that, Jake. I know for a fact we could, and we have talked about this for longer, a lot longer,
Yeah,
because it is,
yeah. There's so much.
oh my goodness,
It's
there
a
really
massive
is.
opportunity, though.
Yeah.
It's a huge opportunity for the industry to make a massive change and to provide a consistent approach to compliance through digitisation.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're handing over to Mr. Allen.
Yeah, just if I could get this screen share, Patrick, that'd be, and I can jump straight into the demonstration around FlowForma then. Now, hopefully you can all see my screen. Can I just get either Shay, Jake,
Yeah,
or
all good.
Patrick?
All
Yeah,
good.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to give a quick 10-15 minute kind of walkthrough tour around FlowForma, how we sit within SharePoint and extend its capabilities, and then of course the audit trail and the analytics that we can provide specifically around compliance digitalization, with BSA being the highlight. So what I'm after creating, it's the screen that you're looking at right now. This is one of our SharePoint dashboards that I've created specifically to be compliant in digitalization. And you can see here that I have 4 boxes at the very top. The first of which is the Building Safety Act. And once upon clicking that, you're brought to a new page in order to kind of trigger off the Building Safety Act and acquire all of the information on your ongoing instances of that process. I also have the health and safety, ISO compliance, and then of course a document library. It's not necessarily just completing the processes, but also understanding where all the documents are going to be sitting. So just to give a quick taster as to these pages, if I jump into the health and safety, now all of these different pages, they would be controlled by roles and permissions. So only specific people within your company that would have access to this page would be able to open up this health and safety page that I'm showing right now. The 4 blue boxes along the top, upon clicking any of those boxes, you will be starting up a FlowForma process that has been embedded onto this dashboard. And of course, that's how you would initiate the tracking of any of the information. And then just underneath that, we do have an analytics. So all of the processes that are completed within FlowForma, the information is automatically inputted into a new analytics feature that we have released within, I think it was just under 2 months ago. And this is a live, real-time analytics dashboard that we can provide. So say if you're looking at the incidents by project, if I was to come over here and click on project B, now you can see that only all of the incidents around health and safety that have happened for project B is shown in the dashboard. Now I'm just going to take a step back from health and safety, and I'm going to jump straight back over into the Building Safety Act. So just one last little thing on this dashboard. You can see here that I have another 2, 4, 6 blue processes or blue tiles. Each of these processes, again, that could be used throughout compliance and digitalization. But the one thing I would like everyone to highlight to everyone is the forms awaiting my input. So as FlowForma, we're able to tap into the Active Directory, and any forms that have been assigned to any users or stakeholders, whether it's internal or external, we ensure that they are notified of that step being assigned to them. Whether it's in the forms awaiting my input, where I'd be able to click on the blue hyperlink on the left-hand side here and brought directly to that form instance that's awaiting for me, or of course we could be alerting people through the likes of hyperlinks that can be sent via email. So for today, I'm going to click into the BSA page here, and you can see that I have 3 different blue boxes. The first of which is the starting of the BSA process. Now this is pretty much the initiation of the process that's going to trigger out, say, 10, 20, 30 sub processes. So this is the very, very first step in order to start capturing all of those different documents and information. But of course, if there are any ad hoc forms that need to be completed, I also do have the on-site forms with a wide range of construction forms that might be required, or of course we have external forms. Now these are hyperlinks that could potentially be posted on a wall, say on site of the construction, in order to, if any of your employees go over, scan this QR code, they'd be brought directly to the form on their phone. They could fill out whether it's a safety observation, whether there's an issue that's after appearing on site, or of course, if it's something just like submitting a timesheet, all of which are capable. And then finally, on this page, you can see here that I do have another document library. So we have all the BSA projects, where we have project 1, 2, and 3, where all of our different documents, when they're generated through FlowForma, they're automatically inputted into that document library. Or of course, I'm also capturing the fire safety forms and the site inspection forms as well. So that's a very high level walkthrough, SharePoint, FlowForma Analytics. Let's start jumping into the Building Safety Act and how FlowForma would be a suitable tool in order to make all of the different companies compliant with the requirement around the golden thread. So if I click on this tile, I'm brought directly into a FlowForma form instance, and you can see here that we have project details. We have Gateway 1, Gateway 2, and Gateway 3. So they're the 3 different kind of checkpoints required in order to get a construction up and going. Now I'm going to click on project name at the top, and you can see here that I have project 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now FlowForma, we do integrate into external platforms, external systems. So this could just be, if you click on project 2, we'd be able to extract information from any other project information platform that you have and pre-populate the forms with the key necessary information. Now I'd next like to highlight, so we have a wide range of different forms sitting along the bottom here. Now the idea is that we're going to be assigning these forms to different people within your company. And then of course they would be headlining up the collation and the completion of all of those different steps. So once I click on submit, you can see now that the competence declaration and the fire and emergency files will both be assigned to me for me to complete. And of course, you'll gain insights as to the progress of each of those different processes as well. So if I click on submit, I'm brought directly into the Gateway 1 step. Now this is largely just capturing all of the fire safety information. Now just as a concept, I'm going to be uploading a fire safety statement. And then of course, once you've collated all of the information around the fire safety, next up is pretty much submitting that information in eForm into the building safety regulator in order to get approval. So once we have uploaded fire safety, we can now click on planning application submitted. If we click on yes, and then we're just inputting the information as to when this fire statement was inputted into the building safety regulator. So if I go the date submitted is the 22nd. It was submitted by myself. The reference number, this will be provided by the building safety regulator. And then of course, if we are still waiting for approval, we'll click on the pending approval step. But once we click on approved, we then automatically progress into the Gateway 2. Now within Gateway 2, there's a wide range of different sub-processes that have to be ran in order to make yourself compliant around the golden thread. So you can see here that we have the core information captured from the project details. And then of course down here within the building control application status. So I'm just going to take a step back out of that. I'm going to click on refresh over here. And I'm going to just open up a previously completed BSA process for myself. Now you can see that when I initiated the new BSA process, you can see that there's 3 new steps that have been assigned for me and are awaiting for me to complete. So I could click on any of the different blue hyperlinks on the left, so the competence declaration. I'd be able to click on that step, be brought directly to the step in that form. I'd be inputting a principal designer's email, so that could be someone external from your system. And once you input their email address, they will receive an email with a hyperlink and the principal designer. So the next step, that'll be automatically assigned to that person. So by clicking submit, I've completed the very first step. It's routed into the second step, which is for the principal designer, which is an external step. And then of course it's back rerouted internally into your company in order to approve the information that's captured by the external party. And then just to give a very quick insight into how the forms might look. So within Gateway 2 now, you can see that we have a competence declaration and a fire and emergency file. So these were the two files that were assigned to me. And I previously completed these yesterday, but just to give you insights as to underneath the Gateway 2, within the FlowForma platform, each of the different steps, when they are tracked, you're able to get a percentage complete coming out of them. So you can see now that the competence declaration, it's only about just over halfway completed. I'd be able to jump in, complete that step, or delegate it to someone within the company that might be able to do it. And of course, we have a documents with a project too. So that's just a hyperlink directly to a document library that I have where all of these documents are also falling into as well. Now, the document libraries that you would be using, you're not specifically limited only to the likes of SharePoint. We are able to generate documents and input them into any external systems that you currently have. So we're very flexible whenever it comes along that lines. And then finally, just one other thing I would like to show. So if I click over here, our analytics that we have provided, as I mentioned, they are real time. And of course, with the Building Safety Act, it's all about gaining insights into how you are progressing, specifically around capturing all of the different documents required to be compliant to the golden thread. So you can see here, if I click on the Harrow Youth Centre, which is just a concept location, you can see now that each of the different documents here, they're all running quite smoothly on time. However, if I click into the likes of Sunderland Borough, that the competence declaration is a little bit lagging behind, in which case I'd be able to jump in and delegate that to someone that might be free of time. And then just one final thing for me to show today. Look, it's always moving goalposts when it comes to compliance. Kind of echoing on from what Jake and Shay have mentioned, that it's all about those tiny steps in order to get a good, repeatable compliance technology stack set up. So of course, you need to be able to jump into the processes, make the small little changes as required. So one thing that I'm going to show right now, so we have the competence declaration. This was one of the sub-processes that was getting initiated and assigned to me. And say if I wanted to jump in and say add a second review step, very quickly I'd be able to jump in, add, I'll call this approval level 2, assign to form creator, click on OK. And now I'm after just creating a new step along that competence declaration step. Now I'd be able to jump in and say if this is signed off by the project manager, if we want specific pieces of information captured in the approval level as well, if we want to generate documents, if we want to highlight this to the building owners, all of which is capable underneath the different steps that we're creating within FlowForma. And then, of course, we're able to use business rules, such as the generate document, in order to collate all of that information and store it wherever you are looking. Now, I'm just conscious of time. How am I doing for time, Patrick?
All good there. I think, yeah, I think we're all good. If you have another minute, we can wrap up then.
Yeah, perfect. No, just a summary and close up then. Look, I'm after showing SharePoint and how FlowForma as an application can be installed within your SharePoint in order to do the process automation and the analytics. I'm also after showing the FlowForma, how easy it is to jump underneath the hood and make the small changes as required. And then, of course, the analytics, the real-time information that's automatically capturing each of the different steps along the process. And then, of course, one final other thing that I could show, because I know that Jake and Shay leaned upon it quite often in our previous chat, is purely the audit trail. With a tool like FlowForma, everything that is completed or initiated is completely tracked. You can see here now that we have the created by, we've modified by, assigned to. So each of the different steps from a manager or a project management level, you are able to fully understand who these steps are assigned to redelegate them, and then of course if someone comes in to do an audit inspection, everything there is readily available. So Hope I didn't overrun too long, Patrick. I'm going to hand this back to you now.
Thanks, Sarah. And I'm just going to introduce the next slide and get Shay back online, just to introduce a use case of compliance with Coinfort.
Yeah, so obviously in the scenarios that we've been talking about already, it's all born from experience, and we have had a number of clients who are willing to give us their feedback on how things are performing. So, I mean, it speaks for itself here. I'm not going to read through a case study for you guys, but the reality is the guys in Coinford realized early on, I mean, in the whole digital revolution, that they needed to take care of their health and safety and their quality and the training, etc., and onboarding of labor, and to name but a few of their processes. But Sean O'Donnell, the IT director in Coinford, really bought into the fact that if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We're going to make it repeatable. They saved an absolute fortune in time and overheads once they started to introduce the processes digitally. And they have an ongoing digital record of everything that they produce. The great thing about this is that you had the buy-in, and it's what we talked about earlier on, myself and Jake, about when you get the buy-in, you actually then see results. There is no downside to digitizing these processes. We don't know of anybody who has gone down the digital route and has reversed back. Nobody's done that. Nobody said, no, I want to go back to that paper stuff and, sending all those emails again and, saving PDFs and just doing, they haven't done it. Everybody who's gone down this route have just increased and increased and increased, and actually have realized that if they put in a concerted effort, they really get the rewards. A huge part, and again, we talked about it earlier on, myself and Jake, was about the admin overheads. So there's another organization that we dealt with who we saved them on each of the processes per person 3 days a month, just on the fact that they didn't have to copy data into different locations. So they used to have to even create digital records, but make sure they were in certain locations in certain systems and repeat putting them into different systems. So they removed all that and removed all of those days. Whenever you see a large hospital group, I can't mention their name, but they'll be on our list of customers, and it wouldn't be too hard to decipher it out. But I can't name them specifically, but they had a fire safety process. This was their very first process that they wanted to. They knew they wanted to bring in digital process automation, and they knew that this fire safety checklist was so important for the group, for their hospitals, that once they proved this, then everything else would fall into place. It has had a massive impact within the group because, again, the removal of admin, but also the visibility, as Dara was talking about earlier on, they now have the visibility through their analytics to see that they're up to date on their fire safety checklists. They save 2 weeks a year just on that one process. Now, we would anticipate most organizations would end up with, 40, 50 processes. We have some customers who have a couple of hundred processes in motion. If you can save 2 weeks from one process, extrapolate the rest, and you see the amount of time that you can save. Apart from just the time saving, you also have all your data to hand. So you're going to save when you get to the audit and so on and so forth. And apart from all of that, and I know Jake would be a great exponent of this, you're doing the job right. It's there for a reason. So the reason you have these things in place is that you get to do them correctly, and you end up with a better product at the end. Your building, your environment, everything improves.
That's great, Shay. Thanks for the overview of those. So we've loads of questions coming in during the webinar, and just going to go through some of them now. First question, the great one that's come in is, how's the information from FlowForma issued to external parties such as the relevant planning authority or BSA regulator? Is it hyperlinked or emailed, and how do you restrict access? Really interesting question.
Yeah, that's a question I'd love to have had an hour ago, so I could think about it. Because the reality is, once you've gathered all the data, it's kind of up to you how you distribute it, right? So if the authorities allow you to transfer it digitally, that can be done. If they require it in PDF format or whatever, that can be done. It all depends on who the receiver, or how the receiver wants to get it. Bottom line is, once you have it stored digitally, you can distribute it whatever way you like, and we can facilitate that. So
Does it,
that's kind of the answer to that one. To be honest, we don't have anything built in because it depends on the
presumably
authority.
the access, the easy access would be a key feature of that, presumably.
Well, the fact that you know where it is. I mean, but apart from anything, once you have it centrally stored and you say notify us that we need to send it to X compliance agency, you would then start the process of finding out, well, will they take this in a digital format from us directly? Because that's the easiest thing. You just press a button and off it goes. Most won't, because they don't want you interfering with their systems. So then you're going to contain it in a different format. So then they'll all have a format that they want their optimum way of receiving the data, and we can make sure it's done that way.
Okay, thanks, Shay. Another question here. So we use multiple technologies in our business. How easy is FlowForma to integrate with other systems?
So that's not how long is a piece of string question. I'm going to be perfectly honest. It depends on the systems. If it's a modern system, we've never found a difficulty integrating with a modern system. As Dara was saying earlier on, we'd be well in tune with the likes of Procore and all, and the sort of really relevant and larger systems that are out there, all of the Autodesks, etc. That's there. We would have environments set up, and they're actually no code integrations, so you can increase them and decrease in whatever way you like with it. But if it's an old system, then we'd have to take a look. But once it's a modern system in any shape or form, last 10, 15 years, you're in a good place.
Thanks, Shay. Another good question here. What would be the top behavior or action for an organization to get started with compliance digitalization?
Well, that'd be a
That's
Jake
open
one,
to
I think.
open to the panel.
Where would they start, Jake?
Oh, a top behaviour. Wow. Where would they start? Well, like I said, I think that they need to start with identifying what's the purpose of digitisation. What do they want to achieve? Do we want to achieve compliance with legislation? So from a health and safety perspective, that's my start point. What does that legislation require in terms of compliance? What does that look like? How does it need to be delivered? And how can I then achieve that through digitisation? I think that, in terms of behaviour, it's going to be a case of being open. It's going to be a case of being vulnerable to a degree, and trusting in people that you have within your organisation that know what this is and know how this works, and letting them have the autonomy to make that decision and come to you with a product and go, this is how it works.
And just on that, Jake, I'm presuming contacting the likes of yourselves wouldn't go amiss either, to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Yes, I think that it's about looking at the digital. Yes, absolutely. Speak to people that know the area that you want to digitization in. health and safety or whatever that might be, speak to the people that know what that looks like. What does that compliance look like? And then that will help you develop a plan that's going to be achievable and give you that approach. But behaviour definitely is about being open and honest and with yourselves.
Thanks, Jake. Another question here. How do we make sure our system adapts to the current regulation, but what may be coming around the corner as well?
Okay, well, again, that's the fact that you would have an environment that you can allow evolve. So again, we're talking about the combination of technology and expertise. So as things evolve, and they will keep evolving, legislation, etc., you have likes of Jake and McBain's who would be up to speed on what's required, and then you have your technology, and you bring the two together, and now you get a cleaner environment. If you didn't have a system or an environment that couldn't be evolve, that makes it a bit trickier, because then you're talking about a system on top of a system and so on. So you sort of start as you mean to go on with the knowledge. I think that you're never going to achieve 100% on day one, because these things keep evolving. Like in 3 years' time, you'll have another piece of legislation that comes out and say, well, what do I do now? You just add that in. So you just keep evolving the whole environment. So again, it's the combination of expertise and the technology to the flexibility and the agility of that technology to adapt to that. So once you have those in place, you can't lose. Will you put yourself in the best possible? Like you're definitely in the Premier League of compliance organizations.
Yeah, to complement that, Jay, it's also about listening to the people that are using the system. You're not going to get this right the first day. And Idara explained that you can change the system, you can add bits, it's agile, you can make it change, etc., etc. Those will all come from learning and accepting that we're going to put something in place right now. We're going to listen to the people that are using it, listen to the outcomes from our clients, and go, okay, so how do we need to change this to make this more applicable or more agile or better? And it's going to continue to improve. I think that, again, that's one of the advantages of digitization, is if you're making a change to a process, you only make this change once. And that process is your digital process. Whereas if you're changing it using a manual system, using Word, Excel, etc., you've got to change that document, approve that document, get that document circulated, train everyone how to use that document, make sure they still continue to use the same document. And I think that the digitization will give you that flexibility.
Yeah, I never, it's funny, Jake, I had forgotten to say that before. Version control, it's spot on, where you've got people who are using the wrong documents because they haven't got the new one. That's so important.
That's great stuff. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Shay, on that. That's really all we have time for today. I'd like to thank our panel today, Shay O'Connor, Dara Allen, and Jake Denny from McBain's. I hope you found the content today insightful. Please remember to fill out the feedback survey that you'll see after the webinar. That will help us iterate our content and provide even more relevant content the next time around. Finally, you'll have the opportunity to speak with our digitalization experts on a complimentary workshop or demo. Really encourage you to avail of this opportunity to accelerate your own digitalization plans for improving compliance, no matter where you are on your journey. Thanks once again, everyone, and have a great rest of the day ahead.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.